Hey everyone, welcome to another Chai Talk with Wajahat Ali for the Left Hook Substack. And I have journalist Gil Duran. Folks, you need to follow Gil. He has been on top of the Broligarchy for the past few years. He has a fantastic newsletter called The Nerd Reich. Nerdreich. He knows the philosophy of Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, David Sachs, the people that they follow, why they are the way they are, and specifically why so many billionaires and the 1% seem to be celebrating openly on Twitter the collapse of the American economy during this trade war, which, as of this recording of 1:10 p.m., the stock market, folks, is going down. Everything is going down. There's, fears of an economic recession. We're in some tough times, folks. But the big question I have is why? Why is Elon Musk and the Broligarchy enjoying the collapse of America? And Gil, you followed these people and you came up with a really good tweet. I think it was yesterday. You said, people who follow the Broligarchy, you broke it down, and then you said normie journalists. Normie journalists, oh, this incompetence. Why is this happening? And then you actually gave the answer. What's the answer?
These guys are part of a very dangerous cult ideology that seeks a collapse of the prevailing global order because they see that as important to their own futures and they would like to see things like democracy and nation states collapse so that they can create something new that they completely control. And that's the simple answer there. And this is not my analysis or my guess. Again, this is the stuff they say in podcasts, in books, in conferences. They've been openly developing an anti democratic, anti American ideology for years, if not decades. And so collapsing the prevailing economic order is a part of that. And that's where they sort of have commonality with Trump, who's been on this tariffs idea for a long time. And what do we know about Trump? He bankrupts everything he touches. Look at the stock market. This is the Trump effect. And so I think we have a convergence of cultish, extreme ideas about the economy that are really aimed at collapsing the global order and creating something new that is just inherently and undefeatably right wing.
And you talked about this convergence, and for me, the convergence is it's more of them realizing, and I'm talking about the billionaires and the oligarchy in particular, that Trump is a valuable tool, an asset, a useful idiot who can help them achieve their goal of economic collapse. Like you mentioned, Trump, again, we're not God. We don't know what's in his heart, but based on his actions, he's been on, like you said, this tariff tip for like decades. And his mindset is that if there's a trade deficit, they're screwing us, not realizing how global economies and trade works, right? But for Musk, right, and for Peter Thiel, and for David Sachs, and for the billionaire who co-host the podcast with David Sachs, what's the name, Chamath, uh, Chamath on Twitter yesterday, and several tweets. I don't know if you saw, as the numbers went more and more down, he was celebrating. Why would he be celebrating that?
Yeah, because they think that this they're going to benefit from this somehow. You know, it's also about undermining and devaluing the dollar, which will push more people to crypto looking for some kind of escape from the declining currency. They have that part of it mapped out. It's a huge part of their ideology. You know, they're going to go after the Fed, the Federal Reserve, monetary policy in general. They see capture of the economy and of monetary policy as important to their future idea of this sort of extremist sovereignty fantasy. And it is, you know, this doesn't make any political sense to be doing what they're doing in a conventional way. No president tries to crash the stock market, right? That no president tries to crash their own poll numbers. They are planning for a future in which somehow the voices of the majority don't matter. This is going to
Mm.
hurt lots of people. It's going to drive up prices. We had a an election last year that the Republicans allegedly won because of the price of eggs. Well, these guys are about to drive the price of everything up, right? So there's no logic here. And what I said yesterday on Blue Sky was that here is a group of people who have been talking for years about crashing the economy, destabilizing the dollar, replacing democracy with dictatorship. And here, when I look at the news, that's what they're doing. This is what's unfolding before us right now. And yet the mainstream journalists are like, well, this is chaos and incompetence, and nobody really knows what's happening. because they haven't done the reading. And in thinking about this, I think that conventional journalism, well, establishment journalism and establishment politics reward conventional thinking, right?
Mm.
You think about things conventionally, you explain things conventionally. That's how you win the awards. That's how you get to the top. We're living in an era where power has been seized by unconventional thinkers who are doing crazy things that break all the rules and are trying to basically break the system of government we have, right? The global order, the United States is the top of that. Why would anybody in their right mind who's in American politics seek to reverse that? And when you're dealing with these unconventional thinkers and you apply a conventional lens to that, you're going to miss the whole thing. And that's what's been happening for the most part with the press, who seem to think this is all chaos and incompetence. But I don't see that at all. These guys have been talking for years about the need to do exactly what's happening right now. And unless we're all hallucinating, they're doing it.
And Gil, that's why I wanted to talk to you. I mean, 2 days ago, I reached out to you because I was lucky enough to talk to you for the Left Hook a couple of months ago. And I'm like, Gil understands these people, right? Because I talked to some economists, very smart. They gave very smart analysis, but they do not understand the mindset of the Broligarchy. And like you said, like rational, logical actors, they're trying to use rational logic to try to understand what is clearly to them and most people illogical actions, which, like you mentioned, no president wants to destroy the economy, which means that will destroy their political future, right? In the first term, right? That's a
Mhm.
bloodbath for the midterms. But it seems like these people are running in a way that makes it seem that accountability means nothing. Like they're doing things that seems like they're going to be in power for a long time. Gil, right? Like elections be damned. And I'm going to break down what you wrote in the your blue sky or your tweet, because what's common to you and me isn't common to most folks. And a lot of people after talking to them, they're like, "Oh yeah, oh, okay, what Gil is saying makes sense." Let's go big picture, and then I want to break down to the minor parts. The big picture. You have told me that the Broligarchy, Musk, Thiel, Howard Lutnick, who pretty much gave the supervillain plot yesterday on Fox. I don't know if you saw the clip where he said, "This will be good. We're going to replace the low income workers with." Do you want to tell the people with what?
With AI,
With AI. Right. Openly said it, folks, yesterday on Fox. Uh, what are they going to replace democracy with?
AI controlled by them. Right. That's what this whole purging of our federal bureaucracy is about. They think AI can make better decisions. And of course, AI is not going to make neutral decisions when it's systems that they designed. It's going to be weighted to favor their own politics and their own desires. And of course, AI is not even capable of doing that so far. AI will give you wrong answers on a lot of things, and AI has not got everything figured out. But that's part of this bubble they're trying to push, right? They're always onto some new economic scam, whether it's crypto or AGI, something that will force everyone to put billions and billions of dollars into their pockets while they race to try to control the future. And so that's an important part of this. AI and crypto are the two technologies they see as the main architecture of their autocratic project for the future, right? They believe that this is their time to seize power and that they can do so with these technologies. But I don't think they've got it all planned out because, again, this is going to, we already have in early 2025 Republicans showing up to town halls angry at their absentee representatives. This is a political disaster, so much so that Trump is spreading the rumor that Elon's going to leave soon, right? They just lost Wisconsin by 10 points in a race where Elon personally intervened, apparently under the delusion that he's somehow a charismatic or popular figure in the United States, right? None of this is political law. I spent a lot of my career in politics. None of this is stuff you do. You want credible messengers. You want to do everything you can to make sure you win the race. And also, you would never go and put your main guy as the face of a race that you're going to lose by 10 points. And you know that in advance. There are polls that will show you that you're probably going to lose. And so you keep your big guys away from there. So all of this does seem designed for a future in which the voters don't matter, or
Yeah.
maybe in which these guys are all going to run away to Russia with all the money they've stolen. I don't know which it is. I'm not a fan of saying that they're going to take away the vote because that's up to us, not up to them. And I think that one thing I have noticed, though, is some of these tech bros seem a little scared of what Trump is doing. Balaji
Mhm.
Srinivasan, a main thinker of the network state ideology, was complaining about the supply chain effects of this. Curtis Yarvin, a fascist influencer philosopher who's been very important to J.D. Vance and Peter Thiel, wrote a whole screed about how tariffs are not the way to go. So I think in a way, you know, Trump and MAGA are the host and tech fascism is the parasite. But they're sort of kind of riding on the back of a tiger here because Trump is crazy and he has his own ideas. And between Trump and Musk, I think that the hubris of these guys combined, the ego, is going to
I wanted to get to that,
crash
the ego. Yeah.
things, right? I don't think they've got it all figured out. I don't think they're perfect. And they're not completely in alignment. They want to destroy the country and they want to destroy democracy. But I think some people can see that the polls are sinking, the markets are sinking, and what is your game plan for getting out of this except for martial law? Well, good luck with that because I think you'll have millions and millions of people in the streets, and I don't think that'll last very long. And I think that's the mentality we have to have is that we have the power. These guys are messing up big time, and there's going to be a massive pendulum swing in this country.
No, so you unpacked a lot there, and you're smarter than me on this, and you've connected the dots, and that comforts me because I have thought that the one thing that can bring these people down, both MAGA and the Broligarchy, as if you will, personified through Trump and Musk, is their hubris, is their overreach, is the insecurity. You're seeing it in MAGA, right? Right, the cracks where they turn on each other within the first 2.5 months, and now the Broligarchy, right? Because Musk is so unstable. Both these men are really fascinating to me because both these men seem to have an insatiable need to fill a hole inside themselves, right? Nothing is enough. And I think it all goes back to their daddies. I'm not just saying this, right? Because I was talking to Mary Trump yesterday. Go check out that the live Substack. I put it up earlier today. Mary is a clinical psychologist. Donald Trump is her uncle. She really broke down Donald, the way he is, why he is. And she says it all goes back down to childhood and parents. And Musk, when he I'm sure you've read, this, when asked about his father, it's always like pain, right? Like misery, pain. It was never enough. He was never successful. And right. They're writing these two tigers who are deeply unstable, probably on ketamine, who instead of devouring the gazelle are going to end up devouring each other. But there'll be so much damage, Gil. And in that damage, what we've seen some people say, I've seen some of the Broligarchs say, okay, well, there'll be an economic collapse. People are going to lose their 401. It'll be a disaster. Buy the dip. Can you unpack that?
Yeah, it's what Naomi Klein called the shock doctrine, disaster capitalism. They have this idea. They have enough money. They can wait it out and go and buy. They're trying to buy this country cheap, right? Whether it's real estate they're trying to seize from the government, selling off surplus or whatever. They think they can benefit from the pain of everyone else. They have no empathy. So they don't realize how this is going to hurt families. The families they pretended to care about last year when the bird flu meant that eggs were more expensive, right? They're ready to completely hollow out and collapse the country because they think there's more money in it for them. But again, it's not just money, it's power. They feel that
Power.
if everything's unhappy enough and everything is collapsing, that they will somehow find a way to blame it all on liberal democracy and the Democratic Party, and that they will be rewarded with more power, which is probably true from the core MAGA base. I think at this point, Trump could order them to line up and drink poison and they would do it. But I think that the swing voters and the Democrats who stayed home must be watching in horror at what's happening. And even if people voted for Trump, nobody voted for this. Nobody voted to be in fear that you won't be able to feed your family or afford the basic staples of life soon. And that's what they're plunging us toward. And again, it's like the logic of a suicide bomber, or we're in like a murder suicide situation here. These people
Yeah.
are crazy. They've got a gun to our head and they want something. What is it they want? And I believe it's the collapse of democracy. It's the collapse of the global capitalist order. We're kind of being forced into a MAGA style Brexit here, abdicating our role in the world, risking global instability for the sake of what? Some weird pipe dream of a future in which a weaker America is somehow better for all of us and for the world. And someone I would recommend people read actually is Dave Troy. He's an investigator out of Baltimore who's done a lot of writing on this. 3, 4 years ago, he's writing about this right wing desire to collapse the economy. And if you go read it today, it sort of explains a lot of what's happening now. And this was some stuff that a few years ago I took with a grain of salt, and now I'm like, wait, he wrote about this. This again, these ideologies don't come from nowhere. They have been forming publicly for decades and years. You can trace it all the way back to the gold bugs and early. There's been a lot of paranoia on the right about the dollar, about the about currency, about global banking, and that's connected to all kinds of anti-Semitic theories. And we're now seeing this convergence of conspiratorial cults that really want to bring down the prevailing economic order, partly because they think they will benefit from it, and not only economically, but in terms of seizing power. And so my big question is, how are they going to find a way to blame this all on Democrats? The last thing I would say is that, and Ruth Ben Ghiat, the scholar of fascism, has been all over this and has said this for years. A strongman authoritarian government needs to create constant crises,
Yep.
right? They're saying we have to hurt the economy, we have to destroy the stock market because we're in an emergency. But they're completely creating the emergency. There was nothing like this happening. The market was going up after Trump got elected. So we're going to see a constant creation and fabrication of emergencies that will be designed to justify further extreme action on their part to somehow fix the emergency that they create, that they will be blaming on everyone but themselves. And so I think it's really important to see the game that's being played here and
Right.
not to get distracted. This is about seizing power, this is about destroying democracy. But I think that their hubris and their arrogance is going to lead them into a political quagmire, and that the pendulum is going to swing very heavily against them, no matter what they try, by the way.
Yeah, no matter what they try, but the painful part is, once a building burns down, people get injured, and it takes time to build it back, right? And that's what people aren't realizing is
Mm-hmm.
that there's going to be a lot of pain, and a lot of people are going to get thrown under the bus, and they don't have money to buy the dip. They've lost all their money, right? And there's no liberation day, folks. People are being liberated from their 401k for the sake of the world's most wealthy, sociopathic individuals who simply want more. And you mentioned this keyword, the lack of empathy. And I'm glad you mentioned that because Mary said that about Donald. And people have said that about Elon, right? Taking a chainsaw and celebrating it on stage as thousands of federal employees have lost their jobs and lost their health care and celebrating, but then coming around and acting like, the world's biggest victim because some Tesla vehicles got vandalized, right? One of the things that you mentioned, and if you could unpack this a bit, is again, this is the desire, the plan, folks. This is very intentional. They want the collapse of the global economy because they want the US dollar, to be weakened. Why? Because they want the dollar to be replaced by crypto. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, they really want the dollar out of the way. They don't want the dollar to be the global currency anymore. People tend to think of things in terms of the dollar. And what they're doing is trying to weaken the dollar, because then if people feel that the dollar is not trustworthy, where will they put their money? Into some other kind of currency, which I think most of them hope will be Bitcoin. Donald Trump, though, now has his own coins he's putting out there. I think one of them is called USD1, right? As in US dollar one, or US Donald one. So there's this whole crypto scam. The next few years are going to be nothing but one big crypto scam after another,
Yeah.
right? The Trump administration started like 2 days before the inauguration. He releases a meme coin, scams a bunch of money from people, and makes a small fortune. And the next week, no one was even talking about that anymore, right? If Kamala Harris had gotten elected and had done a meme coin scam before the inauguration, we'd be in the middle of impeachment hearings nonstop. But again, this is where the media, the establishment media, has completely abdicated its role in defending democracy and appears inclined to go along with whatever happens because it might be an interesting story the fascists take over America. So replacing the dollar with crypto and seizing that wealth and that monetary power for themselves is a big part of it that they talk about a lot, especially the thing they call the network state ideology, which is Balaji Srinivasan, Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong, whose sister I just learned yesterday is one of the Doge employees inside of government. So
Of course.
you know, and really they have a target on currency and controlling currency, and of course the Federal Reserve. This A lot of this connects to old right wing, Ron Paulist sort of conspiracies that have been around for a while. But now there's this convergence where they see commonality. If they can find a way to undermine existing structures, whether it's money, political parties, media, academia, religion, you name it. Their goal is to replace the pillars of democratic society with new versions of these things that they control. And
Can I?
money is a big part of that.
Yeah, because I'm a simple man, a simple English major. If I can cliff notes it,
Hmm.
uh, bring down the current political economic reality,
Mhm.
replace it with network states in which you parcel out minerals, resources, land, and give them like fiefdoms to the talented billionaire whom God has chosen, who's the superior Ubermensch. These individuals are gifted by God and through nature to be the best of the best. You have a combination of white supremacy, you have a combination of eugenics, science, right? You're not really going to create anything except profit for these rich people. The earth is already dying. So we will take the best of humanity, who oftentimes are white and who have our genetic code, and we will then leave Earth to the paradise that we will create on Mars.
Pretty much. One adjustment I would make is as opposed to getting their power from God, some of these men now believe they are God or that they will become God. There's this open talk of AI creating creating God in the form of AI, and then combining their own selves with AI to become God. Brian Johnson, this guy who's been saying he's going to live forever and has figured out the secret of reversing age, has been talking very openly about this. A lot of these guys are terrified of death. I think
Yeah.
because they don't want to lose their money and their power. We're all afraid of death, but to be sitting around trying to overthrow the global order because you want to live forever is pretty extreme. But yeah, that's pretty much it. To become a multiplanetary species, mostly populated by the DNA of billionaires who have also made it up with artificial intelligence robots, is pretty much the weird, zany, dystopian reality. And again, a lot of these are crazy ideas that we shouldn't even have to hear about or take seriously, that should be in the corners of the internet somewhere. Unfortunately, some men with tremendous wealth and massive government contracts and positions of power take this stuff very seriously. And we're going to go along for the ride here, but we don't have to be passive in the face of that. I think there's a lot we can do. And there's going to be a growing anger among the mass of people, and there's going to be increasing fractures in the Republican establishment. And if we had some kind of opposition party, I don't know, something that was like a democratically focused political party that could
Hmm.
raise money and engage in some tactics, there's a lot of exploitable material that could be used to really start driving down their poll numbers and creating some serious momentum toward the midterms and toward the next election, period. Wisconsin was a good sign. These guys can bleed, they can be defeated, and we have to keep that momentum going. We have to build on it. So they can be defeated. And I would encourage people to understand that and to be in a positive mentality about your own power. The billionaires should be afraid right now, not the rest of us.
I want to ask you that final question about what we can do moving forward. But for those who have joined us right now, thanks so much. And you think, oh, this is crazy. Elon Musk has invested in what? SpaceX. Elon Musk has invested in what? AI. Elon Musk's PayPal buddies, the Broligarchy, are who? Peter Thiel. And who else? David Sachs, billionaires. Who is Donald Trump's czar of AI and crypto? Want to take a guess? David Sachs. Who do they all believe in or they follow? Curtis Yarvin, right? Who promotes Nazi white supremacist conspiracy theories? All the people that I just mentioned. Who hates affirmative action? Who believes in the return of patriarchy? Who hates DEI? All the people I've mentioned. Who wants to live forever? Their friends who believe that they won't die, right? Transhumanism, becoming man machine and living forever. But folks, one thing I know is that, I'm so glad you mentioned that death part, Gil, because when we were growing up in the 80s and 90s, we used to say, and we were told, there are only two things guaranteed in life: death and taxes. And folks, if you have kids or if they're Gen Z, that doesn't work anymore. You go tell Gen Z there's only two things guaranteed in life: death and taxes. They're like, rich people don't pay taxes. But as of now, Gil, everyone dies. And these people remind me of the modern Pharaoh. If I can go off the Old Testament Quran tip, the Pharaoh also thought he would live forever, Gil. He thought he would live forever. But like you mentioned, and to quote Predator, if it bleeds, it can die. If it
Yeah.
bleeds, we can kill it. Jesse Ventura. How do we figuratively make them bleed, Gil?
Well, I think we're learning a big lesson right now about the role of billionaires in the planet, on the planet, and in our society. And I increasingly have come to believe that we can either have billionaires or we can have democracy. But I don't think
Mm,
we can have both. because even if we defeat this current iteration, these guys are going to keep coming back. They're going to keep trying. They're going to keep buying off more and more politicians. They're already creating a new class of crypto Democrats who are a lot like Republicans and really pushing the crypto, and who are elected by a PAC that took out a bunch of stalwart Democratic senators on
Yep.
installing these new crypto breeds. So they have their hooks in deep and they have a long term plan for power. And so I think we're going to have to find a policy of some kind in the future that makes sure that people don't get so much money that drives them crazy and makes them want to destroy the country, because that is an imbalance we can't really tolerate. It'll be hard to get there, but I think that one of the maybe the silver lining of the pain that people are about to feel and the fear and the anxiety they're going to about to feel is that they're going to become radicalized against the system that allows these billionaires just to use our lives as some kind of plaything that they can break and throw aside. And I think that a lot of people are going to be angry and feel betrayed by that, or be activated if they haven't voted already. So I think that we have the means in democracy to take care of this problem, and I think the billionaires are proving why billionaires, as the saying goes, every billionaire is a policy failure. I don't think we can
Mhm.
live in a world where a handful of people has that much power, because I think that evidence has become increasingly clear that large, massive amounts of money, that billions and billions of dollars are have a negative effect on your mental health. And it'd be one thing if they were off on islands living their own best lives and doing weird stuff, but they seem hell bent on imposing their fascist worldview on the rest of us, and that's not a sustainable situation.
No, and you're so right. We sit there like normal people and we're like, you are the world's wealthiest people. Nature, fate, God, whatever you believe in, has given you a golden treasure. For the love of God, be happy. Travel the world. Learn wrestling or UFC or chess or, yacht or go up in space. Learn languages. Why can't you be happy? And look, Gil, it's almost like a curse. All the wealth in the world, and they're still so angry and insecure and bitter, and they're projecting that bitterness out onto the rest of us, trying to make us live under their thumb. But we are Americans, folks, and we have a history of rebellion. And I want to end on that positive note is that Wisconsin was the test case. And I've been following that, for about a couple of months. Ari Berman of Mother Jones has been doing fantastic reporting. The fact that Judge Crawford was able to win in double digits in Wisconsin, despite Elon spending more than $20 million, literally, folks, buying votes, is a sign that people are waking up. And I'm sure, Gil, that you've seen some of the polls now because people are finally researched this thing called tariffs. They are now 3-1 against tariffs because people in America didn't know what a tariff was. And Musk is 2-1 underwater. Donald is underwater across the board. Rand Paul appeared with Tim Kaine yesterday on the news talking about, yeah, this is terrible. And I was sitting there nodding my head, agreeing with Rand Paul, which just shows you that maybe we're in hell right now, because he was saying how bad this tariff policy is for the economy and global politics. So we have strength in numbers. April 5th, folks, people are coming out in the streets. You also have power with your dollar, whom you choose to reward, whom you choose to punish. Costco has seen foot traffic go up 13 times 13 because they held the line and didn't bow down to the anti-DI policies. Meanwhile, Target lost that much in foot traffic. Law firms who bent the knee are being ostracized. Law firms like Perkins who are standing up and fighting are respected. Democrats who are standing up and fighting, you've seen them go way up. AOC in a head-to-head poll, Gil, I don't know if you saw, it just came out an hour ago. In a hypothetical matchup between Schumer and AOC, Politico says that AOC is destroying him. So people need fighters, figurative fighters. And the last thing I'll say is everyone says, Gil, well, I'm not like you and Gil. I don't have Substack. I don't have the Nerd Reich. I don't get on TV. What can I do? And I think everyone with their vote can do something. Everyone in the local community can do something. In your family, join marches, run for office, school boards. You know, uh, it's the schoolyard bully. The one big bully picks out the weakest kid, beats him up, makes an example out of him, and the masses bend the knee. But then when one person stands up to the bully, courage like hope becomes contagious. And then the masses rise up and they take over the bully. So that's what we're witnessing right now. Thank you for my little sermon. I had to go on a little hopeful rant because for the past hour and a half, we've been talking about, gosh, the depressing nature of what's happening in America. Gil, um, Any final thoughts, and how can people support you? Shamelessly promote yourself.
I'm at the nerdreich.com. I have a newsletter I write there. I'm also on YouTube, have a new podcast that focuses on these issues and talks to other experts. And I would tell people you don't have to have a big audience to be powerful and influential. Studies show that people learn about politics and what's going on from their friends and from their family members. And those are the most trusted messengers. So take what you know, talk to people you know who may be wondering what's going on or may need to be looped in, and activate those people. Your voice is very powerful. You matter to the people around you. And that's an important way to spread information. That's how MAGA has done it. And that's how we need to do it as well. So don't underestimate your own power. We are largely an expression of the collective voices that gather as an audience, but we have no power unless people are out there spreading the word and telling people where they can get the information. So, and also I'd say model courage, right? Don't be afraid. Don't give up. Don't say, oh no, I got to leave the country. There are people doing that. Model courage, model bravery. This country was built by generations and generations of Americans who worked very hard and sacrificed, and some of whom gave their lives to create this country. We're not going to collapse in a couple of years because a bunch of drugged out billionaires want that to happen, right? We have the power. And to quote a great man, people should not be afraid of their governments. Government should be afraid of their people.
Absolutely. And to quote Julius Caesar, specifically Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, cowards die 1,000 deaths. Those with courage die only but once. And we all die, folks, even Elon Musk and the Broligarchy. It's the Nerd Reich. You have to follow Gil Duran. This man will make sense of what's happening because he has followed the Broligarchy. He knows their ideology, their thinking, their game plan. You need to follow him on Blue Sky, on Twitter, and also the newsletter he has is thenerdreich.com. Gil, thanks so much for taking the time. I know you're at a conference, but you made time. Thank you all for watching. Please subscribe to The Left Hook. I'm a terrible capitalist. I'm the anti-Broligarchy. Like an idiot, I have no paywalls. I've kept everything for free, but I depend on the kindness of strangers like Blanche Dubois. And like a fool, I've made it so cheap. If you want to support this and future conversations, it's $4 a month. Take care of yourself. Be kind to people, and please, oh please, don't be a fascist. In fact, join us and fight them. Take care, Gil. Thanks, man.
Thank you.